It was white, it was bigger than this.
Yeah.
It was old.
Dr. Trail, he's not even.
We just called it air for everything, they told us what to do.
The more I think about this, the more I think about, it's probably what Alec was referring to when he said something about one of the paramedics told him, like, you guys should get this vent, it's like, all you have to do is push this button and like, it has like, or there's 3 settings, or whatever, and it's just like, made me think about
That's
this. Like,
exactly
with
this.
And then I was just like, why didn't I go follow up with him a long time ago?
Yeah, that's exactly what this is. All right, I'm Dave from Hamilton. I'm your clinical specialist. I'm going to be back in a couple weeks, and I might be back after that again. Who knows? I'm actually not that far away. I'm only about 2 hours away. So I'm a respiratory therapist for, we'll just say, well over 3 decades, not 4 decades. So let's not put me quite in that category yet. But been with Hamilton for 2 years. Other than that, I've been working in Sanford and Sioux Falls for 31 years or so. What do we got here for you guys?
Nurse.
Okay.
Nurse.
Okay. RT.
Provider.
Okay. All right. We're here to show you your T1, Hamilton T1. It is. Don't be scared when I say it's a critical care vent. We're going to make it very easy for you to use, just like what she was talking about. You're going to put a gender and a height in. You're going to push a quick tab, and you're either going to be doing non-invasive or invasive ventilation, whatever you're going to do. From what I understand, that non-invasive ventilation is what you're going to use a vast majority of the time. So let's look around your vent here. You do have a humidifier here that just fits right on here. That does need to be plugged in to use. It does not have a battery like this does. You got a nice stand here. You can put an O2 tank on the back here. Straps in for that. You got brakes on all your wheels. Just push down to have the brakes work. Looking around your vent here, there is a strap right on here. I'm just using it right now to hang on to your O2 tubing and your power cord right now, but your power cord can be wrapped around here. If you are going to take this off here, you can take it off here. There's a little screw underneath here. You can just unscrew.
And then we can go in the ambulance with it.
And it'll just come off just like that.
That's why I ordered this particular
Or
one.
so you can go in the
Perfect.
Okay. All you'll need is you won't need batteries. You got 2 batteries in here. Up to 8 hours of life when they're fully charged. So this just slides off of here like that. You'll see there's 2 little knobbies in here, 2 little knobbies here. So when you get back, you just slide it right back on there. Should line up right here. Just tighten that back up. Back, we do have a little dust filter here. Just take that out and wipe it off with a little damp cloth or something. Inside there is a HEPA filter before it gets to the patient. This side is where your main stuff gets hooked up. You got your O2 tubing from the wall. You will have a quick connect or something like that to plug into the wall. So that's just a little easy plug-in, 110 power. The extra cord can wrap around here. And just a little filter here for the fan and stuff inside there. Again, dust that off with a damp cloth or something when it gets dirty. Sneaking around to this side is where everything is going to get hooked up. We have pictures here to the patient. So this is the inspiratory side. From the patient, this is the expiratory side. You'll notice that the expiratory valve is going to go in there. Nothing goes inside this ventilator. So air is just going to go inside the valve and go right out the bottom. So that means if you have a COVID patient or something like that, or something crazy, you don't know what it was, but they were coughing like this, spewing all over the place, you don't have to do anything special with this because nothing touches the inside of the ventilator. Just wipe it down. Everything is going to be single patient use. Everything comes off, wipe it down, and you can put a new circuit back on. Speaker, flow sensor picture. So this is where your flow sensor hooks up to. Blue and white will become very apparent here soon. And a little spray bottle, that's for your nebulizer. You can run a nebulizer in line right through the ventilator. Power button right here. I should have powered that up. You do have a arm on here, so you have something to hang on to your circuits for. Just a little screw knob here. I'm not gonna get too into this. Lefty loosey, righty tighty, so I go lefty with this. I can move it around. You'll notice right here is a little indentation, so I can't get too far down, but if I get to that indentation, I can to sort of move that all around wherever I want. I get it to the right place, so my tubings are nice and out of the way, just righty tighty to tighten everything up, and everything's tight, okay? I'm just gonna get it out of the way here, so. So, powered it up. Let's put a circuit on first. We know where everything hooks up, right? So you're going to get, don't have a little cap for this. You are going to be using a heat and humidified circuit probably almost every time. This is all going to come in a package. One thing that's not going to come with it, two things that aren't going to come with it, you have an expiratory valve and a flow sensor. Right there. That will be a separate piece of equipment. I guess this is dirty, so I'm just trying to put this the way it's going to come in the package. It's going to come in a package. I don't have one here. That looks sort of like this. Not exactly like this, sort of like this. So you're going to take that off. Humidifier, where do you think that goes? It's going to go in the humidifier. It's just going to snap in. Make sure these pigtails, they should be on there about right. They should be connected about right. Inside, there will be a little bag inside that circuit. There's going to be an elbow in here. That elbow is really nice so that inspiratory to the patient goes to my humidifier, then it goes back to my patient, then my expiratory limb, my white limb here, will go down. Oh, I didn't put my expiratory valve in. Shit. Yes, I said that. Cap will be on here. You're going to take that cap off. Make sure the diaphragm stays on. Pass this one around if you want to look at it, just to see how that works. There's just one little flange that goes on. I usually do this a couple times because these are really stiff when you get them to single patient use. All the way to the left, only goes in one way. It's not going to go in another way, it's not going to fit. All the way to the right till it clicks in about 1/8 of a turn. My expiratory limb onto there. Flow sensor is going to be in a little bag. It's going to be all wrapped up in a nice little bag. Take it apart. Tear these apart. Flow sensor goes here, right? Where do you think?
No.
I love color coded.
Nope, no pressure, but even a colorblind person knows which side these goes on. No pressure. Keeps my circuit clean. It only goes on one way. Okay. Just put that over it to keep it clean. This little pre-check adapter is going to be on here too. Keep that for doing our pre-check. So now we have a circuit on here. I powered up the ventilator with my power button, so now this is the way it's going to come up. Anytime we put a new circuit on, we need to do a pre-check. We have to make sure it's tight. We have to calibrate the flow sensor. So to do that, we have a little pre-check button right here, pre-op check. Push it. It opens up the systems tab to the tests and calibrations. O2 cell, as long as there's a green check mark there, you're good to go. Don't calibrate that every time. Only calibrate it when it tells you to. If there's a red X there, just hit O2 cell and calibrate. It's going to take about 2 minutes. There's a little timer here, and when it's done, it's done. It'll calibrate to whatever you're plugged into. Right now, I'm not plugged into anything. It's going to calibrate to room air. If it's running on a patient, and I get an alarm here that says calibrate O2 sensor, I don't have this standby screen right now because it's actually running, right? But remember, I don't know where to go. God, was that in tools? No, it doesn't look like it. Is it in systems? Yeah, there's the test and calibrations. Let's hit that. You'll see a red X here. Hit O2 cell and it'll just calibrate to whatever you're on the patient. No high and low cals or anything, just boom, right where you're at. Very easy. The patient stays on, it continues to run. So the two things you do need to do is a tightness and flow sensor check. Tightness, I think you heard me say that. We ended up with some older software in here, not the newest software we have. The newest software might say leak test or something like that. It won't say tightness. It'll also have pictures on it to sort of walk you through that. So tightness, disconnect patient, unplug the end. It's going to tell you to block the end or tighten the system. Either put this over it or put a gloved hand over it and keep it on here. Maneuver in progress. Connect patient, it's done. Should come up with a green check mark here. That's time and date stamp for today right now. If you get a red X, if you were hesitating and you were confused about what to do with this, just push the button again and do it again. You got the instructions the first time, now you'll, oh shit, that's right. Because I mean, you might do it like once a year. Get a red X. First place to look, make sure you take this out and make sure that the diaphragm's on here. Make sure it's on here correctly. Don't mock me. I've gotten a call at 2 in the morning. Upset person on the other end, can't go to MRI. I already did that. Let's just start from the beginning. Just bear with me, I'm waking up here. Take the expiratory valve out. What, really? Okay. It was quiet.
So like the unplug and replug.
Sorry.
There's not a diaphragm on it.
There's your problem.
Do they frequently come off with a lid like
Every
a
once in a while
top,
they
or-
do in that cap.
Okay.
So that's why I just
And then now you gotta go find it in the garbage. Cat bath.
they actually was on the counter there yet. I also had somebody, I had never heard this. These are all things, these are just experiences. I had never heard this, but make sure when you clean it, make sure the expiratory valve comes out with it. Somebody had it recently that it was an expiratory valve that was in there yet on top of it, so it was stuck in there. So, again, these are, I'm going to tell you 100% of the time when I've had pre-check issues, it's been this. I'm not going to say it's 100% of the time because I've done something before, more than once. Put this together, it's sort of dark. It looks to me like it's all lined up there and it's not, so that's another place for a leak. Make sure that your flow sensor cables are plugged in there too. Two places to look for leaks. So, we did that. Now we need to do flow sensor calibration. That's what this adapter is for. It'll fit on either way, either over it or inside of it. Push the button, disconnect patient. Turn the flow sensor, so take everything, just like this, turn it over. It's going to calibrate this flow sensor. Now this is a bidirectional flow sensor. It's sending information back. I can't quite fathom this, like 200 times a second. Flows, volumes, pressures, all that kind of stuff. So maneuver is in progress. You're going to get a few whooshes here in just a few seconds. Then it's going to tell me to turn the flow sensor again. Turn the flow sensor, everything, the adapter and everything. Turn it back over. Hopefully I didn't take too long. Maneuver in progress yet. And if everything is calibrated, you're going to get a green check mark. If I took too long there, I'll get a red X and I know what I did. I took too long. You just restart the process again. Green check mark, we're good to go. I'm going to tell you that the new software is going to be a lot faster than this. So I'm done. Put that red cap over here. Don't clip this on. pull one of these off so that you always have it available to you for something. It's there for you. I'm done. I'll just power it down, make sure it's plugged in, put a bag over it. You're going to be ready to go. So then all I have to do is I power it back on, and we have to decide if we're going to use non-invasive or invasive ventilation, and that's going to be about it.
So when we're through with the patient, we'll make sure we take everything off, throw it away. We're gonna clean the unit, do the, set it all up, do the pre-op, check whatever, pre-operational. And then it'll be ready for the patient. I think some people worry about that they have to do this right before they put it on the patient, which
Oh,
is.
see, I was thinking that, but.
No, but it's done after you clean the machine, then you're gonna set it up, do that.
So
And
it's all
then we
ready
put
for
it, then we
next
store it. So it'll be
Yeah.
ready to go.
Do you store it like this then? With all these tubies on?
Yep.
Just everything
Yeah.
that's on right
Yeah.
now, so after you
Yep.
get,
Yeah, I was thinking
basically you
that's gonna
finish
take
up
a
with
long
one
time
patient,
when
then
we're
you're gonna do
trying to
basically this whole
intubate
process
or-
that you just did,
Yeah.
every
Yep.
time?
For the
Yep.
next one.
For a new patient, then it's
Every
basically
time
ready to go.
with a
Yeah.
new circuit, you have to do the pre-operational check one time. It can be whenever you want it to. That is what most people do for workflow. They do it right away. They tear it down, they clean it up, they put a new circuit on, they do the pre-operational check, shut it off, put it in the corner, keep it plugged in, and have a bag over it. Then I'm just ready to go. I just take the bag off, put it next to the bed, boom. Same circuit, whether it's invasive or non-invasive, whether they're intubated or whether they need BiPAP, same circuit.
And you said it's good for 28 days.
Once it's on a patient, this is
yeah.
good for
Yeah.
months. It can
Right.
sit somewhere for 6 months.
Because everything's
But once
covered.
it's on a
Everything's
patient,
covered,
it's-
everything's clean. That's why I keep that red stopper and put it on the end, so it keeps it clean. Remember, it's not sterile, it's just clean.
Mhm.
They better be going somewhere else before 28 days.
I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
You
Dr.
know,
Trustworthy.
big winter storm, you know?
At 28 day
28
one.
days.
I'll have them forbid COVID.
Yeah.
But yes. So, this is that startup screen, the standby screen. It's gonna look very similar on this as it does with the new software. One thing that will be different is your mode is gonna be over here. So we have 3 quick tabs here. These are quick tabs that all I would need to do is push this tab, put a gender and height in, and it's gonna have things that are set up for my patient that are gonna be right to start with. You guys typically use BiPAP the most, so that was the tab that it's just gonna default to. I'm gonna actually push ASV, adaptive support ventilation, as if we were intubating a patient, because I like to be able to show more of this stuff. It's easier to show some of this stuff around that, okay? So we're gonna push ASV. The patient was a male that was 67 inches, so their ideal body weight 66 kilos. You'll see my mode is right here. I'm on 50%. I'm gonna turn that to 21 just because I'm not plugged into oxygen. I don't want it alarming. You'll notice every time we change something, it's touch, turn, touch. Confirm it, or I can confirm it there, wherever I want to. So I'm on 21%. I have 5 a peep. That's just the amount of pressure that's in my lungs when I exhale. You guys all have pressure in your lungs. You have volume in your lungs. When you exhale, a couple liters. It's called functional residual capacity. That is your medical terminology for the day, FRC. And pardon me for my professionalism or not professionalism. That's going to come out eventually. So you're going to start that wherever you usually do. These things are configured in. We can change these configurations. So if you guys had something, some kind of a standard that you start with, we can. 5 a peep. And the minute volume percentage is 100%. That just means that it's just what's normal for that patient as far as what their minute volume usually is. That's what you would adjust your tidal volume and respiratory rate with. But ASV, we don't have to do that. This is an intelligent mode of ventilation. This is what a lot of the critical access hospitals that are using. We get vents that haven't had vents before. So again, it's that touch what we want to do, put the gender and height in, and it's, I don't want to say it's an easy button or an easy mode, but it really is. I can just hook the patient up, I can start ventilation. So we're going to do that. We're going to hook our patient up, and we're going to hit start ventilation, and we're going to start ventilation. It's gonna do a few test breaths here, and then it's gonna sort of find its place, okay? Let's just look around the screen while it's starting to run things here. So I have my mode here, I have modes here. If you want to know, we've got volume targeted modes, volume adaptive modes, we've got pressure control modes, spontaneous, we have ASV along with our non-invasive ventilation or BiPAPs. So we have all those modes available. Again, I opened a screen up, I can just hit cancel or I can hit modes and it's going to close that screen. It's not going to have be screen on top of screen on top of screen. It's just one screen that's going to be opened up for you. So on this side is all of my controls. It's all the things I can change. So it's the controls as far as the settings. If I push controls, I'll have other settings that I can adjust here. Alarms, I'll have alarms I can adjust here. I'm just gonna adjust again, touch, turn, touch. Just because I don't want to get a bunch of alarms going on here. Okay. Right here it tells me I'm not plugged in. That would, X would not be there where the power cord is if I was plugged in. I've got two batteries here, battery 1 and battery 2. Battery 2 must be about depleted, so it started on battery 1. All red here, so that tells you it needs to get charged. Right here is my alarm silence that I pushed, 2 minutes. You'll see the LED is on there. So, batteries. 2 batteries in here, one's permanent, one is more hot swappable. You're not going to be hot swapping any batteries out. Each one, at best, is 4 hours. So you have 8 hours of battery, up to 8 hours of battery life with your ventilator. I don't think you're going to need 8 hours of battery life. Just keep it plugged in as much as you can. Well, I mentioned this in the last group, keep it plugged in when it's not on the patient also. Because if you don't keep it plugged in, over time, the batteries are going to deplete. You don't really want examples, do you? Put it in a closet for 6 months. When you turn it on, your screen's going to all be grayed out and nothing's going to work. We're going to have to put new codes in and everything. Maybe you'll start it up if it's only been in the closet unplugged for 3 months. You might have a couple tabs down here yet. You can push your systems tab, which is the next tab. You can go to settings, date and time, and you'll see that the timestamp is wrong on it. Like it was be 2007 or something like that. Just change that, apply it to today, X out, turn it off, turn it back on, and everything will be there for you. That's been most of my experience. I had that other experience happen one time. So, batteries here, systems tab. First thing on my batteries, and we weren't wrong, battery 1 has got 72% left, battery 2 has got about 18% left. So it tells me right there the percentage of battery life that I have. If I plug that in, it will start charging even when it's running on a patient. But again, keep it plugged in as much. I don't care if it's unplugged for a day when you're cleaning a room, but don't push it in a closet and forget about it. Forget about it. Don't try, Dave. Try to keep it plugged in. Tests and calibrations would be, let's say it gave me an alarm calibrate O2 sensor. You go to the tests and calibrations, you see a red X there, just push O2 sensor and it's going to calibrate. Sensors, O2 sensors always defaulted on, and then your settings for how loud it is, the date and time, and things like that. Events are just all the events for this patient. That means ventilator changes, alarms, anything like that. If I want to scroll down, I can scroll down like that. It saves up to 1,000 events per patient. Once you start a new patient on here, it's going to start all over again. Tools is nothing for you to worry about. Monitoring, everything is here that you monitor. The 4 main things are peak pressure, exhale minute volume, exhale tidal volume, and frequency. I push that tab. I'm not going to go through all these things with you and where they're at. It's going to tell me I'm analyzing 21%. It's going to tell me I'm delivering 5.8 cubic mils per kilo ideal body weight right now. Tab 2 is my non-invasive tab. That I call it non-invasive tab because it talks about my leak percentage and my liters per minute leak over here. So that's sort of what you want to look at if you put a mask on and what's my leak percentage? You know, try to tighten it up if it's at 50 or 60% or something like that if you can, but usually if it's at 30-40% or less, you're going to be fine. Tab 3 is all my fancy pulmonary mechanics stuff. Static compliance, expiratory time constant, my plateau pressure is 27. On the new software, there's going to be another thing down here called change in pressure. That's my driving pressure. That's just my driving pressure plus my PEEP gives me my plateau pressure. That's all my monitoring tools. Up here, you already saw where the alarms are. If there's an active alarm, low, medium, high priority. High priority is a red one. You'll see the LED up here going as long as that's active. And it's going to be giving you a like, get in here, get in here. It's just going to keep alarming if it's high priority. A medium priority will be yellow, and it's going to give you an alarm every 5 or 10 seconds as far as audible. And if it's a low priority alarm, there are a few of those, it's just going to stay yellow, but you'll just get a one-time audible alarm. But anytime that there's something on here, that means there's something active that's alarming. Once it's resolved, it just goes away like this. So where do I find it?
Events.
Events. And there's another tab that you can look at it. You can look at the little icon here, push that, that'll have all the alarms that were going off since I reset it. This is a cool little place here, this buffer window from this icon here, because again, I'm telling you something that you don't have right now. But when they come to change the software, you're actually going to have a little way to look at that alarm and understand what it means. If I push that alarm, like say low tidal volume, it would open up a little card here and it would tell me what's define it, and then maybe give you a couple troubleshooting ideas. So it's just like a little pocket guide for your alarm management, because you don't remember what alarms mean, especially you get inspiratory volume limitation. You have no idea what that is. So you can push it and it's going to give you an idea what that is. X out. So if I hit my icon, I hit reset, gets rid of all those alarms. Not there anymore. They'll still be in my events tab, and I can't go to my events tab and push one of those. It's only in that buffer window, the icon, or if it's active, you're not going to see the I button. Just push that flag there and it'll open up that buffer window to assess what that alarm is. Questions on that? That's really going over everything. We went through the pre-check, we got it set up, showed you how it goes on and off. Okay? What time is it? All right, we did not get a chance to go over the humidifier. Let's do that real quick.
This is, I know the answer, but I'm asking. Is this
Especially
okay
since
with
you're
your
taping it here.
article?
Can you see that? Okay. So humidifier.
There's your blue sheet though, so
You saw how it all comes together. It's already assembled for you basically. The little short inspiratory side goes here. The long expiratory side will come down to the patient, the expiratory side back. This is just going to be like what you have on your Airvos. It'll just be a spiked water bottle or bag or something. You'll take that off and spike it. And we got to talk about maybe getting hooks or something for the vent here that you can just hook that water bag on. It's not a huge distance, but we'll see if that works for you or not. So right now it's blank, it's not on. You just see this little blue light here. Push it, this is my power button. It's not any different than what this vent works like. I'm getting an alarm right away because it's telling me I have a minimum tidal volume, but it's starting up. You'll see that it's starting up. It says right here, NIV auto, non-invasive. It's just automatically going to put it 31 degrees in the humidifier. My circuit's going to be 2 degrees warmer when it gets to the patient, so it's going to be 33 degrees at the patient. Silence is right there. That means that since my tubing is warmer, I shouldn't be getting a lot of condensation in my tube, because that's what holds the water from there, is that warmth. If this tube gets cold, so if you're blowing a fan on here, you're going to get condensation. so don't blow a fan on your circuit.
So don't do that.
And it's warm.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I will tell you that I have, at these settings, I have seen some of these masks, depending on the environment they're in, get all steamed up, and actually they almost need windshield wipers. Okay? I'm not gonna show you how to change temperatures. It gets sort of confusing and all that, right? I'm gonna tell you one thing. Push this button once, it goes to standby. Now this humidifier is gonna go down to 28%, 28 degrees. They're not quite as warm in your tubings. So if it's too much, too steamy, too wet for your patient, just hit standby. If they're complaining later that it's too dry, just push this and start it again. I can only get like 1 degree cooler than that, and I have to do a weird thing to get there. So it's just too much. Okay? If I have an intubated patient, so this is non-invasive, right? I have this little guy with a mask over here. That's how I change modes. So I push this, I have high flow. I push it again, I have invasive, INV auto. Now it's gonna go up to 35 degrees with a 2 degree gradient. So it's gonna be warmer to the patient. You're bypassing all that stuff, so you wanna have it a little bit warmer than you do for non-invasive ventilation. Hey, I applaud you though for using heat and humidity with your non-invasive patients. A lot of people don't until we tell them to compare this to, like, say, another piece of equipment they're using. And then I've had a couple people say, it's sort of dry, isn't it, Dave? Yeah, Ron, it is. You sure you don't want to put some heat and humidity on there? And you're doing the right thing. I mean, it's been shown that they're more compliant with it and stuff too. So you're ahead of the curve than actually some very big institutions across the country. So SCOA. All right, that's as easy it is for using this humidifier. And you're going to be doing the right thing to the patient. But I will tell you, you're going to notice there's going to be more humidity in your masks and stuff. Like a lot of humidity in your masks. But hey, you know you're getting humidity to your patient now. You probably weren't getting any humidity before, even though you had a humidified system. So you will notice a difference with that. So it will always default to the non-invasive auto because that's what's going to happen almost all the time. So that's what we programmed it to default to. Okay. On off your silence. There's only about, you have some little quick guides there. There's about 4 or 5 alarms that you see. One of them is going to be minimum water. One of them will be too much water, which is crazy. I've never seen that, but you're going to have to try to dump it out and just make sure it doesn't overfill again. Maybe the float's bad in there or something. If it's not level, you guys have it on here. It's always going to be level enough, so you really shouldn't have too many issues with that. I never can turn it off, just like I never can shut my vent off. I can only go to standby. Now when it says standby, I push my power button and I can turn it off. So, turn it back on. These, you see I have 2 little green things here. I could actually change these if I wanted to gain a few inches and swap these from side to side. Just realize these have to be lined up. If one of these isn't lined up into that plug right, it'll be red. So I might be red here and green here. Just take it out, wiggle it around, push it back in until it gets to be green. If it doesn't, then swap these back and see if that red one follows, or if it stays here, then the humidifier's got an issue and stays there. But that's way more troubleshooting than you need to know. Just call me if you have issues with that, and we'll walk through it. Or text me, email me.
So everything's preset, we don't have to,
It's all preset for non-invasive. The only time you would change that humidifier is if it's too hot or too wet.
Yep.
Put it in standby. Or if it's an intubated patient, then you push the little man here with the mask and change the mode, and you'll see the mode change right here.
okay.
It'll say NIV auto, next one will be high flow, and then the next one will be INVs for invasive. Okay. There's little quick guides there for the heater. Sort of walks through all that. I'm not going through all the other buttons because you're not going to use all the other buttons. Okay. So, questions on any of this? I'm gonna unplug this so I don't break something. All right, ASV, that's adaptive support ventilation. That's the patient you're gonna have when you intubate your patient. So you guys use an end title. It looks similar to this. I'll just keep that on. This is actually an infant one, so I have to have some adapters, but the one you use is gonna fit right in here. You don't need any adapters or anything. So you're gonna put that in right here. Again, it'll go in one way, all right? Silence. It's gonna go in one way. The other way it won't fit, so just flip it around if it's not the right way. This is gonna go to your monitor like it always does. Keep your tubing up. That's just the best way for this because it does actually suck air, so if it's in the bottom and there's something in here, it's gonna be sucking that back to your monitor. There's a little filter here, but yeah, they don't always work that great. I would say the same thing for this tubing, keep it up. Just take care of it. You have your tube holder here, just get your tubes here, wherever you have your patient here, get them nice so everything's sort of angled like this, and this is just gonna go right to the ET tube just like this, your flow sensor. Don't put anything on this side of the flow sensor by the patient other than if you someday decide to get like a closed suction system like the Ballard system. You guys don't have that now. Now you just bag your patient, you hook them to suction. You're gonna do the same thing with this. Everything should be added on the ventilator side of the flow sensor. Tidal volume is delivered right from this flow sensor. It's dead space no matter which side it's on, doesn't make any difference, but I want to deliver the right tidal volume to the patient. If I have a bunch of dead space on this side, it's going to deliver less tidal volume. For everybody in this room, doesn't make jack, right? But you get a small patient or something that you intubated that you want to put on this, you don't want to bag them until they get here, it makes a difference. So that's where the tidal volume is delivered from. This flow sensor is different than a lot of flow sensors on vents. Sanford came with the NV vent before. That flow sensor just monitored, it didn't drive the ventilator. This drives the ventilator, so everything it sees here, it makes changes in the ventilator according to what it sees here. Okay? That's how you do this. So if I do a neb, put your neb T in. Even tells me what side I disconnected from. Ventilator or patient side. I'm getting some weird alarms here because I got too much crap in this filter in here. So neb goes in here, just like you have T's already. Just do this, it's spring loaded, so put your neb cup in here. Your O2 tubing will go right around to your nipple here, and push your little spray bottle here. Take this out. Push your little spray bottle here. You're going to notice I get an alarm for oxygen failure. I need to be hooked up to high pressure oxygen in the wall for it to work. If you could hear it, you'd hear it clicking on inhalation and exhalation. It's only going to deliver air to this on inhalation only for 30 minutes and it'll shut off. Once it's done, just take the neb cup out.
That's the best ever patients ever got.
Yeah.
There's still going to be not a good way to deliver medication. But
And then we'll
that's
just
what
like we
got.
do with our BiPAP now, we'll just keep that on so we don't have
Oh,
to.
can we do it? So,
Yeah.
like, all those connections, when you go from BiPAP to ventilating the patient, are all those connections?
It's all the same.
Well, you added stuff.
The end title
Okay.
is all I added. You're not going to use an end title on
BiPAP.
on BiPAP probably,
Right.
because it's just not gonna be reading very well.
Okay, and I thought there was a filter or something like
That was just because it was
Oh,
on
'cause you
here.
were a small.
It was because it was on here.
Okay.
I wouldn't need that. That's
Okay.
why I was getting these weird stuff
Okay.
going on here, because that filter was.
So you
there.
just put the end title between,
Yep.
perfect.
Okay,
Jeez.
so now you just have a patient that just extubated themselves.
It's gonna
Self-extubated.
What'd they do that for?
Because Dr. Jesper didn't give us enough meds.
Okay,
Yeah, probably.
stop ventilation. I'm never gonna shut this off when I push this. I'm never gonna be able to shut it off,
Okay,
because it's running.
okay,
It'll only let me go to standby.
okay.
Push standby. Put a mask on. I'm gonna go to my adult peds patient because I wanna use these quick tabs, right? So I'm gonna go to a new patient here and I'm gonna push BiPAP. Put the right height in. Just gonna start out at settings. And I'm just gonna push go. And put it on the patient. Doesn't get a lot easier than that. Same circuit, same everything. It's just a different interface. This mask is going to be different. You notice it's a blue mask. Doesn't have any valves in here. You don't have an expiratory port in here or anything like that like you do with a single limb circuit. This is a 2-limb circuit. It goes to the patient. It goes back to the ventilator. So we don't want to have any leaks. She's got a couple boxes of the box of each of these sizes, I think,
Yeah, do
in
you
her
wanna,
office.
do you wanna show them that sizing, like what a new,
Sizing is hugely important. I'm not gonna put any pressure on you. This machine is awesome for non-invasive ventilation. It delivers up to 260 liters per minute. It's more than what your home unit does. It's more than our V60 does that people use right now that are getting rid of them actually.
I know. the phrasing.
260 liters per minute. It compensates for leak. So I mean, you're gonna have leak there for some patients. It's gonna compensate for that and try to maintain that baseline to make it easy for that patient to trigger. But that's what Bob Hamilton wants me to tell you, that this machine just is perfect for non-invasive ventilation. But
Bob Hamilton.
now you get the respiratory therapist in Dave that comes out. It's really all about you guys putting the mask on right and getting the right mask on. That's what it's about. So these have sizes. You'll see small, medium, large, extra large. Just sort of look at your patient a little bit. It gives you a little picture of what that mask is supposed to look like on the patient.
Handy, huh?
So if this is large, this is a medium mask, you'll get a large mask. Okay? If these masks, no, that's just what we're gonna do. I'm not gonna say anything else. If it for some reason is too big or too small, just try the next size mask then, but this is gonna get you close. So, I'm not gonna, right now, we're not gonna have you fit this on me and everything, because that, again, takes a lot of time, and we don't have that time. Because there's a meeting in here in about an hour. But mask fit is about the way you put it on now. We got the right mask, hopefully. If you notice right away, oh crap, that's not right, then go get the right size. They're gonna come with these unhooked. This is gonna be hooked up here. Top straps, same distance back roughly. Yeah, she did a pretty good job there. The only thing the top strap is for getting this against my forehead. It has nothing to do with where the mask is on my nose. Your masks are exactly, I think ResMeds have some kind of a
Yeah.
thing, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Your masks are the same way. There's a piece of rubber or foam or something. That's all these top straps are for, is to get that foam or that rubber against the forehead. Okay? Snug against the forehead. You're going to use the adjustment to get this either farther or away from the nose if it's too tight or too loose. And for this mask, it's like this. If it's too loose here, I got to get that mask closer.
Yeah, that's a handy
Okay.
feature.
Whereas some of these, you just squeeze this and you can go like this with the mask. Okay? Whatever type of device it is, you have that. I do know Fisher McKell or something like that maybe, or one of the masks doesn't have this. It's just the straps, but most of them have some type of a device like that. Bottom, clip it in, same distance back. Get it as tight as you need to get it for the patient. This mask is really nice because you see I have a second set of Velcro inside that one. So if instead of going like this with this, I can just snip it off right in front of here, and I have these shorter ones, so I don't have to be crisscrossing around the back of the neck and stuff. Again, same distance back. Now if I have a leak, say I'm leaking over here, sort of feel for a leak. Say I'm leaking, oh God, it's leaking in my eyes. Push it closer. Now I'm leaking over here yet. Don't just tighten this side up, because what's going to happen? This side's
Yeah,
going to let go.
over.
Tighten them both up, straighten the mask out, put it back on, and see if that's better. And nurses were awesome in here before. When I asked, how are you going to take the mask off? They says, well, take the clips off. I wish all the nurses would.
I know, instead
Most
of
the time
doing,
they're
lots of
calling
people
us
keep
in the middle of
redoing the
night,
straps, it's like,
can you put
no,
the mask back on?
Yeah, you have it adjusted. Yeah.
Well, can't you just unclip it? No. Gotta go take care of it. Use the clips to take it on and off, and just take it on and off like a hat. Or if you need to give meds or something like that, just unclip it, take it off.
You know why
Back
that
on
is?
when
It's
you're
because
done.
you're fixing the mask, not them, because we have to fix our own
Yep,
mistakes.
Yeah.
yep, that's right.
All right, didn't think of that.
Yeah. Yeah, those are nice masks.
So they're not, yeah, they're pretty good. They're pretty nice masks. That's for fitting your mask. So, I'm in BiPAP. You can do an EP just like that, just like you would an invasive ventilation. 50% is where it's going to start. I'm going to start at 21. 5 of PEEP plus 5 of inspiratory pressure gives me a total pressure of 10. This is 10/5 on your CPAP, home CPAP unit.
That top number is what we would consider our pressure support, so don't get
Yes.
that mixed up. We were all kind of like, what, we do IPAP over EPAP, so what's that, so.
Is pressure support on top of your PEEP, okay? If that makes more sense or.
Luckily, I don't have that
easier to
committed to memory, so this will just be the
So
first
the
thing in
pressure,
memory.
the pressure is the same as the,
So the two together would be what our IPAP
oh,
would be,
Yes.
okay.
right?
It's just like invasive ventilation. It's not any different. PEEP plus a change in inspiratory pressure
Mhm.
gives me my total pressure or my total IPAP.
Okay, okay.
The
So
new,
that's what
the
you
new
want.
software will actually have a little delta or a triangle sign in front of the P inspiratory or the P support or the P control, whatever it happens to be. It's to remind you that, okay, it's a change in pressure from my baseline. Okay? This is as worried as you are about stuff. I mean, we really are making this pretty easy. You have 2 tabs to pick from. You put your gender and height in, and you're probably going to be in the ballpark. Okay? That's probably going to be the hardest thing to get over. And you know who's you're going to have to remind. And you want to know how you remind them? Let's just start. You just remind them when we look at what our inspiratory pressure is, our peak inspiratory pressure, you're going to find out that that's going to be 5. Somebody's going to come, no, I ordered 10/5.
Because you kind of like 10/5, right? Like for
Okay.
IPAP.
But we were at 10/5. You
We
just messed
were.
it up.
Yeah. no.
But they're going to change, that's not what I ordered. They're
Yeah,
going to come,
I
they're going to
said-
change
Now
it.
you're 15/5.
Yeah.
Now you're going to look at your peak pressure and it's going to read like 16 or 17 or
heck
something like
happened?
that. So you're going to say, that's not what you ordered. You wanted a total pressure of 10, correct? That's 5,
Yeah,
plus an
5.
inspiratory pressure of 5 to get me 10, 11, whatever is going to pop up here, okay?
I know, we have to change our brains a little bit.
I
So the
know,
brains
I-
have to change just a little bit.
I don't like to change my mind.
I know, I
You,
know.
what about me?
This is, you're changing a lot here, but you're going to be okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to be
We'll
too
get it
bad.
figured out.
So this is configured using that quick tab, all right?
So again, it's pretty much preset if we take,
that was preset, so when you start your BiPAP there, that was preset 10/5, right?
Yes,
Okay.
it's set at, and I'm just, so it's the same verbiage, 5 plus an inspiratory pressure of 5 to get 10. This is 10/5, like you
Okay.
said, he's exactly right. Low, I don't want it set at 20 or something like that, because then you put that mask on that patient and they're just gonna push you away.
Mhm.
And they're not gonna let you get
Then you're
within
not
5
gonna-
feet of them again. Let's
Yeah.
start it at 5, let's put the mask on. When you're doing this, you don't have the straps on yet, right? You're just starting this, you're hooking it up and you're holding it here for them. Maybe they're even put their hand on yours until they start getting comfortable with it. And they're saying, hey, I'm really short of breath yet. I'm really working hard. You're gonna increase that support a little bit, that P inspiratory. Okay, that's a little bit better. Now they're comfortable. Now swing that around and try to get it strapped on them. Sometimes they're just gonna freak out when you plug it in because they're claustrophobic and stuff like that, but that's the starting point. So this is BiPAP. We call it non-invasive ventilation, ST. It's a little bit different. You probably just had BiPAP, there's no rate or anything.
Right.
We pre-programmed the rate on here with the ST, spontaneous time, just so there's a little bit of a backup rate behind it in case there's some apnea or something like that. So you're gonna see that there's gonna be a rate that's set. It's all according to the height of the patient. So if you have somebody that's short, that rate might be at 15 or 16. Typically it's somewhere around 12 or so, give or take. Set that around 10 to 12. You don't want it too high that it's fighting with the patient a little bit, but you want it where if there is a period of time that there's not a breath, that it actually gives that patient a breath. So how this works, I'm gonna do this at a rate of 10 because it's just really easy math. So with the rate of 10, you have the cycle time of 6 seconds in a minute, right? 60 seconds divided by 10 for 6 seconds. So you give a breath, and then it's looking at a 5.5, we're just gonna say 6 second window. It's looking at that 6 second window. If there's a breath that's taken, it just starts that all over again. But if there's not a breath,
Oh, sure.
then it gives a breath at the pressure and the eye time we have set.
So we set the backup rate.
You set the
for
backup
each
rate. It's
patient.
going to be configured in with the height. But you want to look at that. You don't want to have a crazy, like a rate of 20 or something like that on a patient that's breathing spontaneously, because it's sort of going to be uncomfortable with that set eye time every once in a while. So usually 10, 12, maybe up to 15. Now, if you have a patient that comes in that's lethargic, their CO2 is through the roof, they're not breathing very well, and they're a do not intubate patient, this is a great mode to have, because now I can crank my rate up to 20 or something like that, and now it's going to be delivering that non-invasive ventilation at a higher rate to try to blow that CO2 off, other than you having to stand there with a bag or something like that trying to assist them.
Your eye time is just your inspiratory time,
It's
right?
just your inspiratory time on the controlled breaths.
And that's
Only
over a
on these-
second?
on-
That's for just the controlled breath.
Just
so
for the
it's-
controlled breaths. You can set that wherever you want. Depending on the height, it's going to be probably between 0.8 and 1 second. What I will do a lot of times is I'll go to my monitoring page and I'll see what my eye time is spontaneously,
And then kind of set it.
and then set it at that. But 0.8 to second is where I would that's where it's gonna default with the height generally, and that's a pretty decent default. But if they're breathing a little faster, you might wanna shorten that up. I don't think that they're gonna hit that spot where it's gonna kick in. Cause if they're breathing spontaneously and you don't have that pause, it's just gonna be like a pressure support breath.
Yeah. Because
There's
that
not
only,
a-
that
there's
only
not a
kicks
set
in
eye
if they're
time.
not taking that breath, yeah.
Yep, only if there's a pause and there's that period there, that apnea period. Okay,
I like it.
that's non-invasive ventilation. We're gonna go back, because I wanted to make sure we hit everything. We're gonna go back to ASV. use the quick tabs, this is always gonna pop back up with this graph. So when I'm in ASV, we're adjusting our FiO2 and our PEEP, just like non-invasive for our oxygenation. If they're if they're hypoxic, I'm trying to watch my verbiage, we're taping this. If we're hypoxic, you're gonna increase your FiO2. Let's add to that. Let's add that patient that weighs 400 pounds. Or let's add that patient that comes in every couple months that has congestive heart failure, that doesn't do a very good job with their medications, or they like to splurge on salt over a weekend. Ankles are this big. That's that time when maybe you want to increase that expiratory pressure just a little bit, because everything's scrunched up now. You don't have the, what did we say, FRC, right? Functional residual capacity, that air that's left that keeps your air sacs open. Well, they don't have enough air there. There's too much pressure pushing in. 300 pounds or 20 liters of fluid. Ugh. So I'm going to expand that just a little bit on expiration, so those alveoli open up just a little bit until you get a little better gas exchange. You guys don't have to get crazy. 8, like you did for non-invasive, maybe 10. If you have somebody that comes in that you know is on home CPAP of 12, well, let's go to 12 then, right? Because that's what they're on at home. Just to get that set more accordingly for the patient.
We're in an intubated mode right here, though.
We are.
The ASV, because that's your auto one, right?
Yep, this is the auto one. But it's the same thought process with this. I'm just really thinking of the same process. It's just a different interface. You're doing the same things with these settings in non-invasive ventilation, just like you are in invasive ventilation. So that's for my hypoxia, for my FRC. My respiratory rate, my tidal volume, my inspiratory pressure, my minute volume percentage. That's what I set for my ventilation. So that's what I have to adjust for work of breathing. If I'm in non-invasive and that patient's work of breathing is really high, they're breathing 40 times a minute, I have to give them more pressure support to give them a little more support. Or if I have a patient that's intubated or not intubated that has a really high CO2, I need to give them a little bit more inspiratory support, because that's what I have to do to blow off CO2. If I have CO2 that's high, pH that's low, or respiratory acidosis, what would you do now? You would probably increase your respiratory rate. Well, I don't have that to change in ASV, because it's determining right here, I got a respiratory rate of 17 and a tidal volume of 386 that I'm targeting according to the pulmonary mechanics of the patient. And it's going to adjust those things. According to the patient. So if I have an asthmatic patient that comes in, then I have to make sure I give enough time to exhale, because there's so much resistance in my tubes. If I don't let them exhale, what are they going to do? They're just going to keep piling on
Stacking.
volume and stacking and stacking until pretty soon your vent just goes, it just gives you high pressure alarms and it doesn't give you any volume. Then you unhook it, and if it's not too loud in the room, you're going to through that ET tube. Some people even push the chest down a little bit. Well, clearly don't put them on the same settings that you had them on. If you had them on a high respiratory rate or something, or a minute volume percentage of 150% because the CO2 is high and I'm trying to blow more off, well, that just increased my respiratory rate or my tidal volume. Turn the minute volume percentage down, just like you turn your respiratory rate down, and hook them back up. So you're going to see now with this patient, there's a lot more resistance here. Same patient, I did not adjust the height or the patient. Now it's targeting a respiratory rate of 13 and a tidal volume of 460. So it adjusted that to get that minute volume. And this is what would be normal for that patient. Now, a lot of the patients that come in aren't normal, right? They come in for a reason. Well, we're not talking about mental acuity or anything here. We're not talking about, who's that guy in that flipping white Ford Edge that came in here from some weird county.
We don't profile.
I'm gonna get more of a normal patient here. We're gonna give it a little time to catch up with it. 100%, you're not gonna be much less than that. You're generally not gonna set up much less than that because that's what's normal for this patient. This puppy goes up to 350. That gives you any idea. You're not gonna go up that high either. So, a little bit more of a normal patient. You'll notice I have this is the minute volume is targeting. This is what it said that this is what's best for my patient with the compliance and resistance, what it is, what's going on with the patient. And that's what it's going to target. That plus sign is just the patient. If they're breathing higher than that, that little plus sign is going to be if they're breathing every once in a while. It's going to be more on that side of stuff. Okay. So, get a respiratory acidosis. Somebody comes in, they're not breathing very well. CO2 is high, pH is low. I change my respiratory rate, right? I change my minute volume percentage. Respiratory rate times tidal volume is minute volume. Just increase it by about 20-25%. See how the patient does over the next 10 minutes or so. If you have an end tidal in, see what happens to the end tidal. Does it start going down a little bit or not? It might not be a respiratory acidosis. It might be a septic patient or somebody with a diabetic ketoacidosis with this crazy low pH, so low that they're actually having ectopy or something because they're so acidic. I need to ventilate them more, or he needs to give some bicarb or something to help with that problem. But what do we do first? This is fast, right? We increase the respiratory rate, we increase our minute volume. That's that time when you might end up at 170% or something just to compensate for that pH that's really low. But again, do you ever see that kind of a patient? I shouldn't even use that patient for an example, but diabetic ketoacidosis. But usually you don't intubate them, right? Because they're healthy enough where they can just breathe 40 times a minute, and you can call somebody to come in, or you can take care of it here hopefully over the next few hours and sort of help them out a little bit. But that's how you make your adjustments. I guess that's what I'm after more than anything, is that's what you just adjust your minute volume percentage. You have to trust this ventilator to do the right thing. It does the right thing. It is like having a clinical specialist way smarter than I am sitting in front of this making these adjustments continuously, and they're doing it faster than what that person could do.
If you had a high CO2, would you increase your PEEP?
I would increase.
Like, let's say a COPD-er,
I
would you
would
want to give
increase.
them?
You would consider, well, just because their CO2 is high, what is their pH?
Low.
We have to know what their pH is
mean-
first, because if they happen to be somebody that most
True.
COPDers do not, most of them do not
Because they probably
retain.
because they probably compensated maybe, or
Yeah.
yeah.
What you will also find, I found this more than I did with COPDers for retention, for CO2 retention, the ones that have sleep apnea, especially undiagnosed sleep apnea. They have compensated over the years that their PCO2 is high, but their pH is pretty normal.
Because their bicarb and everything else is
Yeah,
high.
everything sort of,
Yeah.
it compensates. It's
Mhm.
the body is trying
Yeah.
to work itself out.
Yeah.
Always look at your pH. You would increase your minute volume percentage a little bit. Now, if you were having problems with gas exchange, maybe I changed my minute volume percentage and my end tidal didn't change. My blood gas got a little bit worse. Maybe I do need to increase my PEEP a little bit because I'm not getting gas exchange. I
Give
don't
them
have enough
something
FRC. maybe I have a lot
against.
more obstruction going on here than what I, to try to compensate, that I need to compensate for. COPDers typically breathe at a lower rate with a higher tidal volume. So don't be concerned if your tidal volume goes up to 9 mils per kilo or something like that. That's pretty typical on a PFT when they just have them breathing normal, that they do have a little higher tidal volume with that lower respiratory rate, so they can get all that air out. This is going to make that adjustment. It's going to sense that that expiratory time is longer, so it's going to decrease that respiratory rate a little bit. Now, if the patient's breathing spontaneously, the patient's breathing spontaneously. You can't do anything about that. But if you let the ventilator sort of take control a little bit, and you guys are going to RSI them, probably keep them pretty comfy until somebody comes, you're not going to have to really deal with that aspect of it. What do you think?
Did you already go over the knobs?
I probably missed it, didn't I? That's the thing
Do
that
it.
I miss most of the time. All right. Whoa. I've been told. So, these are the soft keys we did not go over. Again, power button. It will never let me shut the ventilator off. The only thing it will let me do is put it in standby. If I read the fine print here, this is where I always have to be in standby to shut it off, just like the humidifier. Now push your key in, push it for about 3-4 seconds until the screen goes black, then take it off and it's off. Now it's going to be ready for you to clean up. Start it up, push it, push start, push your knob. Day and night, this just if it's a little bit too bright for you, you can darken it up a little bit. The panel lock button, you know, I don't know what, I can't pick on her, she's too nice. You have somebody that's messing with your vent too much. They just don't get the BiPAP thing about the inspiratory pressure and the change in pressure support and stuff. You can put the lock button on and then it's going to lock the screen.
Oh, and they don't hear it when they mess with it too, that's
Yeah,
nice.
but it's pretty easy to figure out the
Yeah.
LED, and everybody's getting told this, so sometimes.
So when you come out after me and it's locked. Quit messing with it.
Sometimes we
I don't
use
mess.
this.
I like it. It's like-
I
We
don't
sort of get
either.
tired of the med students or the residents messing with stuff and not talking to us, and they never can figure out the lock button. And that always scared me because I don't want him taking care of me if he can't figure out how to unlock the screen.
Yeah.
So it's more of a, can that nurse or can that resident take care of me? If they can figure that out, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
But, lungs, that's just a breath. All right, it's just a manual breath. Just push it. It's going to give a breath. A little LED thing will light up. You can keep pushing it, pushing it. It's only going to give enough breaths. It's going to always let the patient exhale. So you don't just push it once. Okay. 100% O2 or increase O2. You'll notice the oxygen here. When I push that, it goes up to 100 and it gives you a timer. When that timer goes off, it goes down to where it was before. So that's just 100% boost. If you're struggling with a patient or maybe they desaturate when you roll them over or something like that, just hit the 100% button. Or if you're going to suction them, hit the 100% button because you're actually going to take them off and stuff like that. So just give them a little boost before you take them off and suction them.
I'm assuming that works on the, like if we're on the BiPAP side, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's gonna be the same idea,
Yeah.
obviously.
We can pre-oxygenate them before you
intubate them.
Yes, yes. The sickest patients, sometimes we wouldn't take them off the BiPAP because we had them on such high settings and they're on a lot of FiO2. We'd just sort of hang onto their chin and stuff a little bit to make sure they weren't obstructing when we gave the RSI meds and just let that do the work, because sometimes you take that mask off and reposition everything and you just end up with a freaking world of hurt.
Oh.
So you just unclip it quick then when you're ready to go. But yes, a good way to pre-oxygenate. This is just a little flash drive. I can put a flash drive in here to take screenshots. And this will be my net button. So if I push that again, it's just going to click on inhalation and exhalation because I'm not hooked up to O2. It will just give me that, hey, your oxygen's not hooked up alarm here if I don't turn it off. And my silence button. So if you ever have issues, something's alarming, I don't know exactly what it is, I don't know what's going on, take a lot of pictures. She's got her phone, you've got your phones. take a picture of every screen if you can. Take a picture of this screen. Take a picture of your control screen. Maybe even, especially if you're in BiPAP, take a picture of the More tab and take a picture of the stuff that's set in the More tab. Take a picture of your alarm screen and then go over to monitoring and take a picture of each of those screens. Because now I've got about 8-10 pictures here, and now I have the story that you guys told you guys have, and we can all sit down together and we can figure out what was happening. And maybe that'll be a great case study for a nurse meeting or something like that, or whatever, to go over, and you don't have that issue again. I've taken part in a couple flight team meetings from different ones that has something crazy going on with a patient or something like that. And there's stuff, I'm going to tell you, there's stuff I'm not talking about, just because I'm not going to try to confuse you anymore or anything like that. But you may have something come up at some point in time that, what the heck is this alarm or something, and then we can look at that stuff and we can explain that to you, give you some more education, give you that opportunity to learn more on top of it. But let's just get it going right now. BiPAP, ASV, non-intubated, intubated. They're going to be your quick tabs to go to. I mean, I would have no qualms using those. If we find that there's providers that want to use something different, then we certainly have those other modes that are available to us. And let's put at least the third quick tab into something that they think they might want to use as an alternative.
Because we have our choice of 3 quick tabs, so
Yeah.
we just didn't know what we want for a third one.
So when you're on the vent, I'm just making sure I understand you right. So for the most part, it doesn't matter whether they got restricted lungs versus hyperexpanded to normal intubations. Like the machine does the work for it.
It
basically,
does.
it's like you said, put in their height, put in their sex, and for the most part, for the vented side of things, you let it. It'll determine
What's the proper
settings and everything.
What's the proper way to ventilate this patient? And I'm being very generic when I say it's looking at the pulmonary mechanics, right? But I'll be a little non-generic to you. Third tab, I have something called the expiratory time constant, RC expiratory.
Yeah.
If you remember what this is, good kudos to you, because I did not remember this from school. I don't even know if they taught this to me in school. I'm pretty sure Mary did, but the expiratory time constant is a product. Any time constant is a product of your compliance and your resistance. So it's looking at that, and we're getting the expiratory time constant. And she's got a great handout. I think it's over underneath hers there, that explains the different pulmonary conditions with the different time constants. So if I have very low compliance or a really high resistance for a patient, you think about multiplying those together. This expiratory time constant is going to be very short, right? Because I can exhale, or I should say not a low compliance, a very restricted patient. It's just like that. This is what it takes. A volume goes in. This is what it takes to get about 60% out. We know that it takes 3 time constants to empty. So I know I need to multiply this times 3, and that's what my expiratory time should be right here in my monitored expiratory time. Okay? This does this all for me. ASV does this for me. So if I have a very short expiratory time constant, goes up fast, that means that the schematics of this is going to say, oh geez, I got somebody that's very non-compliant. I have to watch the volumes and pressures I'm delivering to this patient, but I can make up that minute volume with respiratory rate. And exactly the opposite for asthmatic or COPD or somebody like that. They have a time constant that's very long. And it's going to say, oh, I need to exhale, because it's looking at expiratory time first. And it's adjusting the respiratory rate according to that, because it knows if I can't exhale, I'm going to be trapping, just like what she said. I'm going to be just adding more air on top of air, and I'm never going to be able to get it out. So I know that's an issue. So it's doing all these calculations in itself. What you're going to notice, it does two things. It decreases the work of breathing, and it decreases the force of breathing. By decreasing the work of breathing when I'm in ASV, you're going to notice what my pressure graphic looks like here. Now when you see a spontaneous effort, the little triangle underneath there, my eye time changes. Now it actually switches to a spontaneous mode that's targeting that tidal volume. And then when she left, so we're going to pick on her, when she decides to sedate the patient, it's going to say, oh shoot, he's not breathing anymore, and it's going to go back to that controlled mode. So it's just going between a controlled and a spontaneous mode. That decreases that work of breathing so they're not bucking the ventilator. And then it's looking at the other aspect of force of breathing with those other things. So there's a lot of equations and stuff going on inside here, but it actually works really well. This is how many spontaneous breaths. This is how many controlled breaths. That's the change in inspiratory pressure it's taking to deliver. So my peak pressure should be 12 and 5, should be about 17, 18 here, 19. It says there's always turbulence there. It always reads just a little bit higher on the peak pressure. But we're giving you exactly what's happening at that time at the patient. That's also doing the triggering for the patient. It's also doing the cycling for the patient. So it's not like they have to breathe through that whole circuit to trigger a breath either.
Smart machine.
It is. If I had tattoos on my chest, you guys have a Lucas device? I would have Lucas, and I would have ASV tattooed on my chest, because that's what I want. I want you to put the Lucas device on. I want you to put on ASV. You guys ever have full arrests that come in?
Full arrest?
Full arrest,
Yeah.
With the 3.0 software that George is going to come and put in sometime, there's also something called the CPR mode that you can actually, it'll just configure it to an inspiratory pressure of 15, whatever we want to, an inspiratory pressure of 15, PEEP of 0 or PEEP of 5, 100%. It's going to spread out all your alarms, and it's just going to do like an ACLS guidelines of rated 10, high time of 2 seconds, and you don't, once you're intubated, you're not going to have to worry about that. Flight teams are huge on that because they don't have enough hands. So, because they end up, they
We
don't
have the
have,
same amount of people at night as a flight crew.
yeah.
Really.
But you know what? Your codes sometimes do better with less people
Oh,
than if you
definitely.
get a room full of people.
Agreed.
It's crazy. Give me a room full of let me pick 4 people, and that code is just going to go so smooth compared to getting all those people in there.
Yeah.
But that will be an opportunity. There's not a cost to that. It's just a key that we have to punch in, and you'll have access to that. We can configure it how you want it configured.
Awesome.
And you can always adjust it if you have a PEDS kid intubated, if you want to increase the rate or something, decrease the eye time according to the PALS guidelines or whatever you have.
And I guess that would be a question that I think you kind of just answered, but it's like adapters for PEDS or...
It's PEDS adult circuit.
Okay, so you can use it for...
You can use it for anything. I'm going to give you about a 10 kilo cutoff. That's when you would want to probably use our smaller circuit, our infant circuit, which you don't have the software for. About 10 kilos.
Because we would have to get different masks then too if we're gonna.
Well, that would be a whole nother, when you're getting down to that size patient, you're talking about different devices and different types of interfaces, sometimes even not even necessarily a mask. You might be
Right.
talking about a cannula or something,
Yeah.
like a RAM cannula or something like that on some of those patients. If it's not invasive, if you got a mask that fits, that circuit size doesn't scare me as much because you're just using pressure anyway. You can just sort of watch the volume and stuff you're delivering to the patient, the respiratory rate. But you're not gonna have a small enough mask. A small mask is still way too big
Right.
for 10
I
kilo.
mean, I guess we already
kid.
talked about this at med staff, that we weren't doing.
Yeah, no, we
I mean, you
have.
could.
We have used
So we
those,
could do the whole thing
you know,
and do the
the,
five-
that's
you
right.
flip it around, right? We've used these masks as a total scuba mask. You just
Yeah.
flip it around like this.
Oh,
That, you're right. You probably could use that small
Frontier
mask.
medicine, you gotta do what you gotta do, man.
Yeah, especially when we can't get a flight crew or something, nobody has a bed or.
I saw so much stuff when I flew. It's just like I walked in once and I was, oh shit, what are we walking into? A stoma patient, respiratory distress. They said something about intubating them or something. And it was like, what the shit? And I walked in, they had an ET tube in there and they had them hooked up to an IV machine. And I'm like, frick, yeah, that's a ventilator. You know, or you go to Bowdle. They had an oxygen mask, they had a styrofoam cup they hooked a hole in and put an extension tube in for oxygen off the wall, we're using that for a mask.
Oh, we
Not
do
a
that,
kid.
we've done that.
It's just like, man, that's,
Yeah, just a styrofoam cup, like if they don't,
yeah. It's just like, it's
we
just,
used to do that.
it's
like
good
this.
critical thinking skills. It's
not that
just
we don't
like,
have them, but just that they,
I mean, I think, while, we haven't done them recently, but
you guys,
maybe-
we have a lot more equipment now, supplies than we used to.
when I first started.
How long ago was that baby?
Not as long as Misty.
Missy. Now she can't even keep my name straight.
Any questions?
No, I
Any
think
more
it's an
questions?
amazing machine, good job, miss.
Thank you.
Happy.
Yeah.
You made
I
a
know,
good
but I'll be
choice. You made a good
nervous.
choice. And I'm not just
I
saying
know.
that, I've only been out of,
And I love that if you go on the ambulance, you run into
Yes.
too many things where.
And it's durable.
Where we need
It's
support on the ambulance and.
And the battery, the 2 batteries, 8 hours.
As long as it's plugged in.
I know, I will put a big sign on there, cause I can just see somebody coming in, cause they'll be in the LDRP storeroom, you know, with the other stuff. And I can just see like somebody that's maybe even like non-medical, and thinking like, oh, well, this isn't, yes, it does. Just say like, keep me plugged in or something
Yeah.
like that.
Just like the IV pumps. I mean, they're not as critical as that, but
Oh, it drives me, and then we had a bunch
I
of
think
no
we're good
bad
for that,
batteries.
yeah. Thank you so much.
Get just little plugins that'll alarm if something's unplugged.
they will when they're dead.
What I'm saying, like, the second it's unplugged.
Most
Oh,
of
that
them
is
do.
my biggest pet peeve,
I have-
plug stuff in.
I have that at my house, some of that stuff, so.
so, we're keeping this, I'll just keep the circuit and everything on, you're not gonna use it right now. So you
No.
guys, wherever she puts it,